I think the quest of science to understand where consciousness comes from is fascinating to me. Do you have a hunch on, when we do come up with an explanation of what consciousness is, from a biological sense, do you have a hunch on what that answer would look like?
The question of the origin of consciousness and where consciousness comes from, do I have a hunch about it? No. I agree with you that it's a most baffling and important question. If I'm asked, what is the most important unsolved problem in biology, I think I'd probably say the problem of subjective consciousness. It's philosophically very difficult. Each of us know that we are conscious inside ourselves. None of us has absolute, irrefutable proof that anybody else is. Solipsism is not completely beyond the pale. I've just remembered that Bertrand Russell once received a letter from a lady who said, "Dear Lord Russell, I'm so pleased to hear that you are a solipsist. There are so few of us around nowadays." Consciousness must be, in some sense, a manifestation, an emergent property of the brain. As an evolutionary biologist, I'm naturally curious to know what, if any, biological advantage consciousness confers on individuals who have it. I'm interested to know at what point in evolution consciousness arose, whether consciousness arose more than once in evolution. We know it arose in our own phylum of the vertebrates, but did it arise, for example, in mollusks? Are octopuses conscious? Are lobsters conscious? What advantage would accrue to an individual that was conscious subjectively, as opposed to an individual who merely behaved in a way such that each muscular movement, each behavior pattern contributed to its own survival, given the sense data falling on the sense organs and given the past memories? It would be possible to imagine an animal that was a purely robotic computer that behaved in the correct way to survive exactly as though it was conscious, while not actually being conscious. And I find it very hard to get my head around what it is that actually makes for the advantage of subjective consciousness. I also find it hard even to define what subjective consciousness actually means. Yes?
Yes. So I'd like to just, if you comment, Professor Dawkins, on whether the scientific the evidence for evolution is incompatible with with a certain set of initial conditions of the universe that allowed evolution and natural selection to so vastly take off into the greatness of what we see around us.
Is evolution incompatible with a certain set of initial conditions of the universe which allowed evolution to happen? I'm not sure if that's quite what you meant to say, because on the face of it that sounds almost tautologically, obviously, necessarily true. It has to be compatible with a set of initial conditions that made it possible for it to happen.
So I get to follow up. So would you say that would you believe that evolution precludes a creator?
That's a very different question. Does evolution preclude a creator? Precludes a strong word. I don't think it quite precludes a creator, but I think it makes a creator very, very improbable. It makes a creator superfluous. It makes there is certainly no good argument in favour of a creator. I presume the connection between the two ways in which you phrased your question is that when you talked about initial conditions that fostered the eventual appearance of evolution, there was a kind of implied expectation that those initial conditions must have been put there by a creator. Now, there are physicists who will tell you that the initial conditions of the universe, the fundamental constants of the universe, the laws of physics are very narrowly, finely tuned in such a way that if any one of them was ever so slightly different, evolution would not have been possible and we wouldn't be here. That is something that a lot of physicists will tell you. There are various ways in which you might interpret that observation, if it is a valid observation. Not all physicists accept it, but I think probably a majority do. One way in which you could interpret it is the one favoured by the questioner, which is that a creator fine-tuned those constants, as it were, twiddled the knobs that adjusted the gain on each of these half dozen or so fundamental constants of physics in such a way that gravitational constant was just right, the strong force had just the right value to make it possible for galaxies to form, for stars to form, for chemistry to form, for life to form, for evolution to happen.